I knew that was gonna happen. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be discussing all of the books that I read throughout 2024. I read a grand total of 22 books, which I know does not seem like a lot compared to the book YouTubers out there who are reading 100-something books. But I'm very proud of myself. I read so much this year. I think last year I read a total of 18 books, and the year before that I read 17 books. So this is the most I've ever read, ever in my life. So I'm very proud of myself. It's like we're making progress. So although I did not reach my Goodreads goal of 30 books, I was almost there, almost. And the year is not over. I am filming this video a little bit early just because I leave for Jersey tomorrow. So I obviously wanted to have the physical books with me when I discuss all the books I read this year. So I still have about a little less than 2 weeks left of the year, so it's possible that we can get that number up. But anyways, enough of all the yapping, let's talk books. And also, so sorry about the lighting. I feel like the lighting looks god awful right now. You just probably see like shadows all over my face, but I'm filming this at almost 8 o'clock at night, so there's no sunlight up in here. But anyways, the very first book I read of 2024 was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I loved this book. I mean, not as much as I loved the second book, which I'll get into in a little bit, but this series is just so entertaining. Like, it's giving like teen drama, like it's giving Gossip Girl, but you really just get a lot of really interesting like storylines and everything. Like, this book just hooks you immediately. So Magnolia Parks is about Magnolia and her boyfriend BJ, and it just shows the ups and downs of their life living in high society London. That's why it just gives me like Gossip Girl vibes, like Chuck and Blair, because they are very, very toxic. Like, reading this first book, I could not stand Magnolia, and I feel like a lot of people say you're either a Magnolia or a Daisy girl. I'm for sure a Daisy girl, 100%. But I truly, truly love this book, and I love this series so, so much. And I did rate this book 4 stars. The next book I read was Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. This one I gave a 4.5 stars. I thought it was so, so cute. I loved reading this, and I also buddy read it with my best friend from college. So that was also just even more entertaining, just getting to read with your best friend and just like go back and forth talking about the book. So this one is about Chani, or I don't know how you pronounce her name. Shani. It's spelled C-H-A-N-I. And she is writing a profile on this big actor. He gets cast as the new James Bond, which like obviously means you're a big deal in Hollywood. So she has to write a profile on him, but they did have a little thing going on in the past. So it does jump dual timelines, shows like when they first met versus like the present day. Yeah, that's basically all I can recall from the book. The next book I read was actually a audiobook, and I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I really loved listening to the audiobook. It kind of felt like listening to a podcast because it was Jeanette McCurdy herself narrating her own memoir. It was just such a wild roller coaster. Like, the things she went through in her life was actually insane. Like, I can't imagine going through that. and I'm sure she just like has so much trauma that she's had to work through and overcome. And I'm glad that I got to like read about her story and just see that like it's not all sunshine and rainbows being like a child actor. I don't rate memoirs just because it's like that's their real life, so I didn't give it a rating, but I did really enjoy listening to the book. Next, I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was my very first fantasy book that I had ever read, so I feel like because reading a fantasy book was so different and not what I was used to, it did take me a bit to get through this book. This book was just like very hefty, so there was a lot going on, and I felt like the chapters were way too long. That's also why it took me forever, because I was like, oh my god, I would read one chapter and be like, whoo, that was a lot, time to take a break. So it took me a bit to get into, but I did really love this book. It was so entertaining. There were so many times where I audibly gasped. I was like, oh my goodness, that is insane. Like, just so many like twists and turns, and the plot twist at the end, I was just like, whoa, what the heck. I still have not read the second book, which is Iron Flame. I really need to read that, but there's just so many books out there. I cannot like keep up with all these series. That's my goal next year. I'm gonna read Iron Flame probably in the next couple months, because I know the third book comes out, which is called Onyx Storm. I'm pretty sure that one comes out the end of January, so I need to catch up on this series. But yeah, loved it. I could totally see this being made into like a big movie franchise. Like, this is definitely like the next Harry Potter. It was so well done, and I did rate this book 4 stars. Next, I read Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. Oh my goodness, I really love this book. I did give it a 4-star, but it was just so great. Like, I just love how in this series, the first and the second book are happening at the same time. We're just getting other POVs. Like, the first book is Magnolia and BJ's point of view. And then this book, Daisy Hates, it's Daisy, Christian, and Daisy's brother. What's his name? Julian. Dude, this is why I'm not a booktuber. Like, my explanations are trash. So yeah, the first and the second book are happening at the same exact time. So you just find out like so much more about what was actually going on and all the drama and the love triangles. Like, you're fully getting like the other point of views, and like you actually like sympathize with the other characters because you're like finding out like what was going on in their brain and like how they were feeling during this time. So like I said before, I'm definitely more of a Daisy girl compared to being a Magnolia girl, but I really enjoyed this. I feel like whenever I read the Magnolia Parks books, I just am so interested in what is happening. It's kind of like just keeping up with your favorite TV show. It's like, what are the characters doing in the next episode? Like, I need to find out. So that's just always how I feel reading these books. They're just so dang good. Okay, next I read Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. I honestly forgot about this book. I really cannot tell you what this book was about. I did rate it a 3-star. Normally when I rate books 3 stars, it means like it was good. Am I ever gonna think about it again? Probably not. But would I recommend it to someone? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, I remember this. Okay. The 2 characters, Sam and Tate, they meet on a vacation and they just like really like fall in love. Like, they're only on vacation for 2 weeks, but they just grow so close within those 2 weeks that they just fully trust each other. So Tate ends up telling Sam one of her like biggest secrets, like that she hasn't told anyone. And then 14 years later, he goes and ends up like revealing this secret to people. And also Tate, she's like a big like up and coming actress, so she is obviously pissed off at this. She was just like, dude, what? Like, I told you this in confidence. Why are you spilling my drama or my tea to the public? Like, are you crazy? Oh, the reason why they reconnect 14 years later is because she goes on set for one of her like new upcoming movies, and who's there as the director? I think it's the director, I'm not sure, but it's Sam. Like, what? That wasn't like a spoiler or anything. That was all like what you can find on the back of the book. Truly forgot that I read this book, as you can tell. I had no idea what it was about till I reread the synopsis. So the next book I read was another audiobook, and it was Madison Beer's memoir, the half of it. And I loved listening to this audiobook. Like, Madison Beer just has such a calm, soothing voice. And she's also like one of my like top artists. So I just love her. And I found out more about her life and what she has also gone through. So that definitely like made me respect her even more. It was like a very like short and sweet type memoir. It was like 176 pages, so I was just able to like listen to the memoir within probably like 5 or 6 hours, and it was done. So I just felt like I was listening to multiple podcasts of Madison Beer, so we love that. Okay, next I read the third book in the Magnolia Parks series. This one is called Magnolia Parks: The Long Way Home. This one I feel like I can't really talk about much because it is a continuation of this series, so I don't want to spoil anything. Just know that this all happens after the first and second book, and you just get more and more details about Magnolia and BJ's love for each other, and even more toxic drama. Like, it was so good. The drama was eating. Like, I was so hooked. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to go home and read this book. It's so good. 4.5 stars for Magnolia Parks. The next book I read was The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I rated this book a 4.25, and this one was so fun to read. I feel like just what made this book more enjoyable was the fact that I got to like read it while on set for a whole month. So I was just like constantly updating my friends about this book. Like, they were so invested too, and like we were constantly like taking guesses as to like what's going on with each other, and I feel like that's just like what enhanced my reading experience with this book. So basically, The Fury is about this reclusive movie star named Lana, and she decides to take a trip to Greece, or like to a Greek island, with a few of her friends, and someone mysteriously dies, and it's kind of like a murder mystery. And the narrator of this book, named Elliot, he's like one of those unreliable narrators. So throughout the book, you're reading it and he like will backtrack on what he's saying. You kind of can't trust him at all. So that's what also just made this book so fascinating to me. But it was so good. I definitely enjoyed this book. Next, I read The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This is actually the second book in a interconnected standalone series. So this book is about Nora, who is a sports agent, and she gets a new client added to her roster who just so happens to be her ex-boyfriend from college. And at first she's like so against it. She's like, dude, I cannot be his sports agent, because she knows that she broke his heart. So she's like, no, I can't. But then eventually they just suck it up. But he doesn't give it to her easy at all. Like, he makes her life a living hell. So you just see them like just bickering, and he's just doing all these things to make her go crazy. But she also needs this opportunity to be a sports agent, so then she can be like taken more seriously, I guess, as she like works her way up to full-time. This one was very entertaining. It was another one of those second chance romances, and I loved it. I could totally see this one being made into a movie. But this book I ended up rating 4 stars. The next book was my first 5-star of the year, and it is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Oh my goodness, how I loved this book, or how I do love this book so much. It was one of the most beautiful and magical, immersive experiences that I've ever read in a book. All the imagery, I just fully pictured it in my brain, and I was like, wow, like stunning, gorgeous. Like, just Stephanie's way with describing certain magical things that were going on, I was just like, wow. But basically Caraval is about Scarlett, who she has always wanted to go to Caraval. Caraval is a once a year event sort of thing where people from all over can be invited. Like, you have to have an invite in order to be let into Caraval. After years and years of writing to the head person of Caraval, whose name is Legend, she finally gets an invite, so she decides to take her sister. But on her way there, her sister goes missing, and you soon discover that her sister Tella is the person you need to find during the Caraval event in order to be the winner. Oh, and that's another thing with Caraval. Caraval has like one ultimate goal that all the participants have to accomplish if they want to win. So like, whoever is the first one to do whatever said thing, they become the winner of Caraval, and they are granted one wish. I just love this book so much. It was so beautiful. I'm currently reading the second book in this series called Legendary. That's the one that I said I will most definitely be finishing before the end of the year. So I don't quite have a rating on that one yet, but if I had to predict, I would probably say only 3 stars. It's not nearly as captivating as this book, but I did hear from a coworker of mine that she didn't really like Legendary. She loved Caraval, and then she loved the 3rd book in this series, which is Finale. And we had back-to-back 5 stars. So the next book I read was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This one I also rated 5 stars. It was just such a fun, cute summer romance. I feel like everyone and their mother read this book this summer. This book is about Emma and Justin, and they both discover through a Reddit thread that they have the same curse, which is that whenever they date someone and they break up, that person ends up going on and finding the love of their life. So they're like, okay, like what? I must be a good luck charm or something. So they discover each other through a Reddit thread, and they decide to meet up and fake date. Because they're like, oh, well, if we date each other, then that means once we break up, we'll go on to find the love of our lives. There were so many really great quotes in it too, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And this cover is just stunning too. Next, I read People to Follow by Olivia Worley. I have never seen anyone read this book before. I just thought it was so interesting. I found it in Barnes & Noble at the very beginning of this year. Like, I had gone to Barnes & Noble with my best friend because we wanted to find the book that we were going to buddy read, which ended up being Funny You Should Ask. But I read the synopsis for this book and I was like, oh my god, that sounds so interesting. Like, I would love this book. So I decided to pick it up, and it was a very fun read. It just like wasn't as like well written as I would hope. So that's why I didn't like rate it any higher. And also like it kind of just got like really confusing because there were so many different characters, and I've never really liked that. Like if a book has way too many characters, I'm just like, this is a lot to keep up with. Like I literally had a glossary of all the characters because it was just very overwhelming for me. But basically this book is about 10 influencers who are invited to this island to film a reality TV show. And once they get there, they realize that none of the camera crew had come. So they're just like stranded on this island, and eventually one by one these influencers are getting killed. So this is another murder mystery. So like one by one all the different characters are dying, and you're just trying to figure out who is a person behind it. I thought it was like a really great concept, and I think this was Olivia Worley's debut novel, so I do have to give her props for that. I thought it was very well done, and since I am such a huge fan of reality TV, I was just like, yes, I need to read this book. And I'm honestly so glad that I did pick this book up. So that just goes to show that just because you rated a book 3 stars doesn't mean you didn't think it was like amazing or great. Like 3 stars is still pretty good. Like I say that's like an average rating. Next, I read Summertime Punchline by Betty Carello. I just love this cover. Like, look at how stunning it is. It is so, so cute. And also, I just had to read this book because it takes place at the Jersey Shore, which is where I'm from, so I loved that. But I ended up rating this book 3 stars. So this book is about Delphina, who is forced to move back to her family's home in New Jersey after losing her job, finding out that her boyfriend is cheating on her with her roommate, and because of that, losing her apartment because obviously she doesn't ever want to see her roommate again. She has sworn on her life that she would never ever go back to Jersey, but because everything is just coming crumbling down in her life, she needs to do so. And she ends up running into an old lover, Eddie, and they just rekindle their friendship slash romance, whatever. And she is also an aspiring comedian, so throughout this book she has like 45 days, I think. Yeah, 45 days to perfect like a new comedy set. So she just gets like re-inspired while being home in Jersey and reconnecting with Eddie. Another book I truly don't remember what happened in it. Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. If you can't already tell, I was reading a ton of summer romances because this was during the summer. I literally don't remember. Let's see if I can jog my memory. Yeah, I still don't remember what actually happens in this book. But basically, Allie, who is a professional organizer, she isn't really doing the best. She's just in a little bit of a low or a slump in her life. She is still grieving the loss of her mom, and she's going through a divorce, so she just hasn't really been like inspired to go and put herself out there until one day her sister's like, you know what, Allie, you need to get out of the house. You need to not put sweatpants on like you normally do. Be productive with your day and have a great day. And when she does that, she ends up running into this really cute, charming man. What's his name? Ethan. So she ends up running into this guy, and after running into each other, sparks fly, and I guess they had a summer romance. I don't really know. Really cannot tell you what happened in this book. I'm so sorry, guys. That one I rated 3.5 stars. My next 5-star read of the year was The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hilderbrand. This was my very first Ellen book ever, and I knew that I for sure wanted to read a book by her like over the summer, because apparently like she's the queen of summer books, or like beach reads, I guess. So I'm so glad I picked this book up, because boy was I hooked. It was so good. I was just so let down of the series that they made of this book on Netflix. I couldn't even get through the first 2 episodes. It was so painful, like so bad. And like I didn't want to continue the series because I just knew that that was gonna taint my love for this book. So basically this book is about a couple who's about to get married on Nantucket, and they discover the night before that the maid of honor has been found dead. So now everyone is a suspect. All of the family and wedding party, everyone is being looked at. And this book has multiple point of views. I feel like, I don't know if I'm making this up, but I'm pretty sure Ellen Hilderbrand is like famous for that. Like she does several point of views, even like very small side characters, she'll have a point of view chapter about them. So you get the point of view of like the chief and the police investigating it. So they're just like talking to every single person to figure out who killed the maid of honor. I did not guess it at all. I was so stunned at the end. I was like, wait, what? So it was just so well written. Like Ellen's books are so entertaining. Like I cannot wait to read more of her books next year. I know she has like a winter series too, so I think I'm gonna get into that. Next, I read The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hilderbrand. I guess I just wanted to continue the Ellen Hilderbrand train, but this book was not nearly as good as The Perfect Couple. I ended up rating this book 3 stars. It was more of like a no plot, just vibes type of book. Like, I don't really think there was like an actual plot to this story. It was just like, you're just seeing everything that is happening at this hotel. A lot of people compare this book to The White Lotus. I would agree, but it's not nearly as like juicy and compelling as The White Lotus. But if I had to like sum up this book, I would say that The Hotel Nantucket, it is like a revamped hotel. Like this hotel existed like many decades ago. I think it goes through like a fire, and then eventually someone decides to buy the property and rebuild it, and they're just trying their best to really like up their game and like hospitality and just making sure that they are the best hotel on Nantucket. And they find out that this blogger who is famous for reviewing hotels is coming to their hotel. So all of the staff is just making sure that their A game is on. They're just doing the best that they can to get the greatest review from this blogger. Instead of like doing like a 5-star hotel sort of thing, this blogger gives out keys. So all the hotels who are getting reviewed by her want to get the 5 keys, which has never been done before. She's never given out a 5th key to any hotel. So they are just doing everything in their power to obtain the 5 keys. But I still think this book was enjoyable, even though I did rate it 3 stars. I still thought it was a great read. This next book, I could cry just thinking about it. I adored this book so much, and it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Oh my goodness, this book was just so precious. I love these characters so much. I think of them all the time. Like, I just want to know what else is going on in their lives. I know that a second book came out that's like a sequel to this, so I for sure want to read it, but it's in hardcover, and like if I get the first book in a paperback, I'm gonna want the second book in a paperback. So I'm gonna try to wait till the paperback comes out, which will probably not be till a year from now, but it's just gonna bother me if I have one copy that's a paperback and one copy that's a hardcover. But anyways, this book is about Linus, who works at the department in charge of magical youth, and it is his job to make sure that the orphanages are taking care of these magical children. He has the power to like shut down an orphanage if they're not helping and benefiting these kids. So he ends up getting a really big case study at this island, and when he arrives, he just discovers that these kids are very unique and very different from any of the other orphanages he's been to, and he just develops like such a strong like feeling of protection, I would say, over these kids. Like he just like grows to like adore them so much, and like he just wants to do everything in his power to make sure that these kids live the best life possible. And like seeing him interact with all of these kids is just so precious and so adorable. I don't know if it's because I majored in elementary education, but you do form like such a strong special bond with the kids you work with. Like I went to school for elementary education, so I did end up student teaching a kindergarten class, and I adored those kids. I just loved getting to be with them every single day and just interact with them and help them grow and learn as students. And you do just form such a special bond with them. Like they will always have such a special place in my heart, and I know that Linus feels the same way about these kids too. So I don't know, this book just like really hit home for me because of that. I think this would probably be my favorite read of the year. Oh my god, my throat. I've been talking way too much today. So before filming this, I worked at the restaurant for 8 hours, so I was just talking to people for 8 hours straight, and then now I feel like I've been talking for so long filming this video. So I'm so sorry if like it just sounds like I'm in pain. It's because I am. Okay guys, we only have 4 books left. We're almost there. Next I read We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clywer. I thought this book was so well written. I have never been so spooked out by a book before. Like I honestly felt so scared. I was like, oh my goodness. Like every like little noise I heard when I was like alone, I was like, oh my god. Like I just felt like so jumpy because of this book. Like this book fully just made you feel like you were in this situation, which was so spooky and scary to begin with. But wow, I loved this book so much. It's basically like the movies Get Out and Parasite combined. So this book is about Charlie and Eve, who move into this new house, and one day this family ends up at their doorstep and asks for their permission to go into the house and just show the kids around, show where their dad grew up. And because Charlie is a people pleaser, she allows it, and that's when her partner is not home, so she doesn't have the strength of her partner to say like, no, don't do this. Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't know these people. After she allows them into her house, all this crazy stuff starts happening, and this family just ends up overstaying their welcome. A lot goes down. Like a lot is happening. One of the kids ends up like missing within the house, and all this like spooky stuff around the house starts happening because of that family. I don't want to give away too much in case any of you guys want to read this book, but The plot twist at the end had me shook. It was crazy. But yeah, this is definitely another favorite read of the year. And I did rate this book 4.5 stars. Okay, guys. We have my most disappointing read of the year. This was my lowest rated book this year. In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. I just felt like I had higher expectations for this book, and I was just severely let down. I felt like there was plot holes in this book. I just felt like a lot of it just didn't make sense. Again, there was just like a lot of characters where I was like, wait, who's this person? How are they related to the story? Like, I just kept getting so lost and so confused. So this book is about a group of friends who reunite at their college reunion, and you discover that 10 years ago, one of the friends in the group had died, and this whole time, this murder was never concluded. They never discovered who the killer was, which like doesn't make sense to me. Like, it just seemed like throughout the entire book that they didn't care that this girl died. It was like, what? Did they not have like trials and everything? Like, I'm so confused. It just didn't make sense at all. So then when the group of friends reunite at the college reunion, like there's all these secrets start coming out, and then you think like, oh, like maybe was it this person, or oh, because this person said this, it must be them. This book was just not for me at all. Like, I really thought I was gonna love this book, but it was a no for me. So sorry, this is my least favorite book of the year. This was a womp womp womp. Next, I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I rated this book 4.5 stars. I really loved the magical realism aspect of this book. Like, I'm just a sucker for magical realism. Like, that's why I just love 80s and 90s movies. Like, most of them had that magical realism element to it, which just made it like so cozy and fun to watch. So I just really loved reading this book. So this book is about Clementine, and her aunt sadly passes away, but after she passes, she gives her her apartment. And growing up, her aunt had always told her that her apartment is magical, and she never really got to see it for herself until one day when she's living in the apartment. She comes home from work and she randomly sees this man in her apartment, and she's like freaking out. She's like, who are you? Like, this is my apartment, like what are you doing here? And eventually she finds out that this man is living 7 years in the past. Only sometimes she'll come home to the apartment and he'll be there, but eventually she does find him in the present day, and she sees like how different he is 7 years later versus the 7 years in the past when she's in the apartment. And you just get to see their story together, and I just thought it was so beautiful. I love this cover as well. Like, I just love the bright colors. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, so this was probably another book in my top 5, I would say, this year. Okay, finally, we are on the last book that I've read this year, and it is How My Neighbors Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. I was so excited to start reading this book because I've read Vacation Wars by Megan Quinn, and I ate that book up. I thought it was so good. Megan Quinn just has such a fun, great way of writing banter. I would compare her to Emily Henry. Like, everyone always talks about how Emily Henry is like the queen of banter, like she's so good at writing banter, but Megan Quinn is definitely up there as well. Like, she is just so funny. Like, everything that she writes, like, she's just great with the banter. So I just love this story. It's about this girl named Story, and she goes back to the town where her Aunt Cindy lives to help take care of her with her broken hip. And she runs into this guy who she has always had like a friendship with in the past, but she hasn't seen him in about 10 years because she just hasn't visited her aunt in so long. At first they have like an enemies sort of relationship, but it turns into a enemies to lovers type of romance, and it was definitely very fun to read. It was just a little bit too long for me. Why is this book almost 500 pages? Like, I don't understand. I will say it was very entertaining. It was just dragged out way too long, so that's why I didn't give it the highest of ratings, but still, it was really, really good. Oh my god, I am done. That is it for my what I read in 2024 recap. I am so excited to find some more fun reads this upcoming year, and I just can't wait to talk about more book things with you guys. I really hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!